Greetings, back again here, and for this video I thought we could take a look at some mods that you can do on the original Sega Master System. And I'm gonna add AV out on the back here with audio and composite video, and I'm also going to add a language switch and a 50-60 hertz switch. And the tools that I need for this is a regular Phillips head screwdriver, a knife, some pliers, a drill, and a soldering iron, and of course some solder to go with that. A couple of these switches, some RCA jacks, and wire, and some other things that might be useful is a hot glue gun, isolation tape, and some heat shrink. So, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is of course to take the system apart, and to do so we have to unscrew 6 screws on the bottom of it, and when you got those out you can just lift the top off. Next you need to remove this metal shielding here, and you have I think it's 5 screws on the side here, or here and here and here, and you have a screw on top of the shielding here as well. So you get those out and you can lift the shielding off. Oh, and there's 2 metal tabs here as well, and you'll probably need to bend those a bit to get this off. So, remove that, and we have the board itself here, and we need to take this out as well. So there's some more screws. You have one on either side of the cartridge connector, and you also have 2 screws here on the card slot, and there's a few more screws here. You have 1 in the middle and 2 here over at the power switch. So you get those out, and you can lift the board out of the machine here. So now that we have the board free here, we can start looking for the different pins and places that we need to solder our wires to. Alright, so the first thing we need to find here is a place where we will put the wires for the 50-60 hertz switch. And on my board here, it's these 3 points here where it says JP2, and on some revisions of the board, these points here are actually marked NTSC and PAL, but on this one here they are just marked 1 and 3. And to give you an idea of where these are, if we go down here, you can see we have the controller ports here, and the points are located just below this oscillator here. And if we turn the board over here, and take a look on the other side. We have the pins here, or the points here, and you probably can't see this, but between point 2 and 3 here there's a trace that we need to cut, and then we can add the wires to each of the points here. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that trace, and I'm gonna solder the wires to the points here. Alright, so I have cut the trace here, and I have soldered all the wires, and the purple one will go to the center leg of the switch, and the blue one will be PAL or 50 Hz, and the white one will be NTSC or 60 Hz. So next up is the video and audio. Alright, so we are still looking at the bottom of the board here, and up here at the edge, this is where we have the AV out here. And if we look here, you can see that we have 3 points, and the left one is video, so this is where we'll connect our composite video out, and the middle one is ground, and the right one is audio. And like most other old systems, the Master System only has mono, so there's only 1 point for the sound here. And I'm gonna use the middle one for ground, but really you could use any point along the edge here. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and solder the wires. Alright, so I have the cables in place here, and the white one here is the audio, and the blue one is video, and the green one is ground. And I have tested them, and they seem to be working, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some hot glue over here, just to alleviate the stress on the soldering points. And I'm gonna do the same down here, and I'm also gonna put some hot glue over here to just to keep the cables in place. Alright, so I got the glue on here to keep everything in place, and that's all the work we need to do on this side of the board. So we can just turn this back over, and now we just need to add one more wire, and this is for the language switch. And to do so we need to find one of the chips here on the board, and it's the one marked 315-5237, and on my board here it's this big one right here, and this is right next to the 3 points that we used for the 50-60 Hertz switch. So let's take a closer look at this. So yeah, as I said, this is marked 315-5237, and what we need to do here is find leg 23. And if you look over here, you can see it says 24 here, so this is leg 24, and we just count one backwards and we get leg 23 here. So now we have to attach a wire to this leg, and that wire will go to the switch. So I'm gonna go ahead and solder that on. Alright, so I have soldered the wire to leg 23 here, and I'm gonna put some hot glue here as well, and some over here to keep this wire from moving. And then I'm gonna start putting this back together. Alright, so I have the wire glued onto here, and I have put the board back into the case, and I'm just gonna put the top shielding back on here. And just need to make sure that the cables don't get squashed here. like so. And next up I'm going to drill the holes for the plugs. So I have the top part of the case here, and I've marked the places where I'm going to drill the holes on this piece of paper here, and just put some clear tape on top of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Alright, so I have all the wiring done here, and on the far right here I have the sound, and since it's a mono, the cable for the sound goes to both of these RCA plugs here. And then I have my video to the left RCA plug here, and I have my ground wire hooked up to all three, and then it continues over to this switch here, and on the center leg of this switch I have my cable for the language. So when this is connected to the ground, you will have Japanese, and when it's not connected to anything here, you will have English. And finally I have this switch here, and this is of course the 50 and 60 hertz switch. So yeah, that's all the wiring down there. So I'm gonna put the rest back together here, and I'm gonna test it. Alright, so before I put the lid back on, I have secured everything here with hot glue, and I've also put some isolation tape over here, just to make sure that nothing shorts out. So yeah, I'm gonna put this back on, and then it's time to test it. So this is how it turned out, and I have the AV cables plugged in here, and this is the language switch, and this is the 50-60 Hz switch. So I'm just gonna hook up the power and we'll take a look. Alright, so this is Wonder Boy, and right now it's running in 50 Hz. So I'm gonna switch it over to 60, and you will see and hear the difference. And as you can see, the borders on the top and the bottom of the screen just got smaller, and the music is playing much faster. And if I switch it back, everything slows down and the screen becomes smaller. So there's quite a big difference. But yeah, that's the 50 and 60 Hz switch. So let's take a look at the language switch. So I've just switched it over to Japanese and restarted the console. And as you can see, we get the Sega Mark III logo, and that's the name of the Master System in Japan. And now the game is called Super Wonder Boy. So let's take a look at another game. Alright, so this is another Wonder Boy game, and this is Wonder Boy in Monsterland. And right now it's running in English mode. And I'm gonna switch it over to Japanese. And again we get the Sega Mark III logo, and now the game is called Super Wonder Boy Monster World. And as you can see, the text is in Japanese. And there's only a handful of games that work with this, and the Wonder Boy games are 2 of them. So yeah, that's all I had to show you about modding the Master System. So bye for now, and I'll see you soon.